RedEye. My name is Damien Echols. I was one of the producers and the subject of the documentary West of Memphis, which comes out on January the 18th. Please watch it.
Well, how surreal is it to do something like this? I mean, I've sat here across from Ben Affleck, Will Ferrell. These are people certainly coming from a much different place than you are doing a tour like this. Does that kind of feel surreal to be in that position?
It does. I spent not only 18 years in prison, but almost the last 10 of that was in solitary confinement. So almost no human interaction whatsoever. So then whenever I do get out, to say it's overwhelming doesn't even come close to articulating what it's like. For the first 2 to 3 months that I was out, I was in such a deep state of shock and trauma from that alone that I couldn't take anything in. I needed someone with me all the time to help me with just about everything.
What's an example of that? What do you mean?
Well, I couldn't do things like, say I had a doctor's appointment and had to find my way to a doctor's office. I couldn't go by myself because I had been in a box for almost 20 years. I'd never had to navigate from point A to point B during that time, so I would need someone with me to get me there. Things out here that people panic over, I would not think anything of it, but the things that people out here just take for granted would make me panic. We lived in New York for a year. I'm on the subway, somebody, a crazy person freaks out and goes nuts on the subway and everybody else is panicking. To me, I'm like, I've seen this every day for almost 20 years. Whereas I go to the bank and I'm standing in line trying to figure out how to fill out paperwork, that's what sends me into a tailspin. I'm not used to stuff like that.
Do you feel like in those, I don't know if this happened in that situation or hypothetically in the future, would you ever get involved if something like that was happening? Because everyone else is freaking out, you're calm. Or if someone else was going kind of wild on the train, would you say, okay, and try to talk to that person, diffuse the situation?
Well, I think a lot of times in situations like that, you can't talk to them. A friend of mine was on the subway, and it was this really weird situation where this guy keeps touching this woman on the subway, and she doesn't know who he is. She keeps saying, stop touching me, leave me alone. And everybody on the subway is just looking around, like they don't want to get involved, they don't want to say anything about it. So the next stop, when the door opens, my friend stands up and shoves the guy off the train, pushes him out on the thing, and let the door close real quick. And people on the train started clapping. And he turned around and he was like, what are you clapping at? Why didn't somebody here do something about it? So, stuff like that, I would like to think, if anybody's in any kind of real danger or anything like that, I would like to think that I would do something to try to help them, because I would want somebody to do the same thing for me.
Sure. Something that I think people who maybe aren't terribly familiar with your experience might think when watching West of Memphis is the film doesn't show a ton of you guys really professing your innocence. Obviously, you make it clear that you're innocent, of course, but I feel like some people might see the film and be like, man, if that happened to me, I would be screaming it from the top of my lungs. What are you people talking about? Can you go through how much of that there was?
There's so much that you have to take into consideration. One, you're basically in a hostage situation. You've been taken hostage. People say things like that, but when an actual hostage situation takes place, they don't do those things. You're thinking, if you cooperate with these people, then they won't kill me. And at least in a hostage situation, if the hostage taker kills you, at least they're going to jail. In the situation that we were in, if they kill you, they're probably just going to get a medal. You might scream or something one time, but they're going to beat the hell out of you. You're not going to do it again. And it's not like it's a hard thing for them. These are people who a lot of times get off on hurting you. To them it's a fun time. They sit around laughing and joking about it afterwards. So you're giving them what they want when you do something like that. Another thing you have to take into consideration is we were children, 16, 17, and 18 years old. We had our entire lives completely destroyed, our entire worlds ripped apart. We've been sitting in jail for a year by the time we go to trial. You're in so much shock and trauma by that point that you're not functioning the way you normally would. You're not thinking at your top capacity or anything else. You're just doing whatever you can do to survive.
What do you think when you look back on that old footage of you?
I don't like to look back at it. I had to do it with the documentary, with West of Memphis, just because Lori and I were producers on it, so we have to watch it and make a lot of decisions about it. But it's not fun for me. It's not easy, and it's not pleasant. It's like, not only are you watching yourself at your absolute lowest point in life, but the entire world is going to get to see you that way too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's really hard. Not only that, but for me, it's the only thing I can compare it to is when Vietnam vets talk about having flashbacks. When you watch this stuff, you're reliving it again. You know, you never get to really heal. You're constantly ripping wounds open. But for us, it's a necessary evil. I mean, the only way we're ever going to have a sense of closure in this case is if we're exonerated, the person who belongs in prison is in prison, and the people, the public officials who did this to us, if they're held accountable. So even though I don't like it, it's not pleasant for me to have to relive it. It's still like something we have to do right now.
So do you think after the press tour is over and the movie comes out and everything, like, do you think you'll go back and watch this documentary about yourself, or you kind of would want to just push it away?
Push it away. You know, that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most is this case has already eaten up almost 20 years of my life. The last thing I want to do is keep giving more to it.
Right.
You know, I'm looking so forward to the day whenever we don't have to talk about it anymore or watch it anymore.
Oh,
we can actually move on into the future with, you know, something completely un-case related. It gets to the point sometimes where you start to feel like people don't even see you as a person. They see you as the case. And you don't even have an identity separate from the case anymore.
Absolutely.
And that's a really hard thing to deal with.
The movie certainly makes a pretty convincing case against Terry Hobbs. Is that who you believe is guilty? And
I don't know. You know, what I always say now is it's not my job to point the finger. It's what I say is let the evidence point the finger.
Right.
Whenever we went to court, they did not have any physical evidence against us. They were using ghost stories and rumors and myths and hearsay. With Terry Hobbs, at least you have concrete physical evidence. They have DNA that not only puts him at the scene of the crime, but also the man who was providing him with an alibi. Both of their DNA was found at the crime scene. He had always said he never saw any of the victims that day. We have 3 eyewitnesses who say they saw him with all 3 victims within an hour of the time he was murdered.
What would you say to him if he walked in here?
Nothing. I think whether he did or whether he didn't do it, I mean, if he didn't, then there's nothing I could say to him. If he did do it, then a person who would do something like that, there's probably not much you can say that's going to penetrate, you know, into their consciousness.
Well, speaking of surprising people walking into a room, what was the first thing that went through your head the first time Eddie Vedder came to visit you?
Just hoping everything went okay. I was hoping people didn't mess with. A lot of times when people come to see you in prison, the guards make them miserable because they want to sever all of your connections to the outside world, and I was just hoping they didn't, you know, make it as unpleasant as they possibly could for him. It's weird whenever Eddie would come visit because, you know, when you're sitting there talking and you're eating candy and drinking sodas and talking about baseball or whatever it is, the last thing on your mind is, you know, this is the guy who's singing a song I heard on the radio or on TV or something like that. It's just like, you know, you're sitting with your friend, you're talking with your friend, you're talking with somebody who has come to be with you when you're at your lowest point in life.
It seems like you really do a pretty incredible job of maintaining a sense of calm and avoiding the bitterness that I think would really be a struggle for people to not have in your situation. What advice do you have for people to get to that place?
I think you have to want something else more than you want to hold on to the bitterness. I mean, that's how it was for me. For the first 2 to 3 years that I went to prison, I was really, really angry. From the moment I woke up in the morning, I would be just pissed off. You know, as soon as my eyes would open, my first thoughts of the day is, I'm not supposed to be here. They have no right to do this to me. But then not only are you going through this external hell, but you've also got this internal hell going on at the same time. And I realized there was a quote in Buddhism. They say the Buddha once said, holding on to anger like that is like drinking poison in hopes that it'll kill the other person. It won't. It's not hurting anybody but you. You have to let go of it for yourself. And that's what led me to meditation in the first place. Eventually, over the years while I was in prison, I received ordination in the Rinzai Zen tradition of Japanese Buddhism. It's the same tradition that used to train the samurai. I also had to learn a lot of energy work techniques, you know, Reiki and Qigong. So that's what I chose to focus on. That's what I chose to give my time to, instead of, you know, focusing on the things that could have made me angry, the things that could have made me bitter, and allowing resentment to build up.
Those first few months, was that frustration playing out internally, or did you I mean, were you kind of scream? I think a lot of people would just be kind of screaming and get so frustrated if you were so angry.
Because you don't want to die. I mean, if you scream like that in there, they're going to kill you. You know, just whenever I first got there, they took me, the guards. I mean, it was like it wasn't even anything personal. They carried me to the part of the prison they call the hole. It's in complete isolation from the rest of the cell. And it's just like a welcome to the neighborhood thing. They'd come in at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, chain me to the bars of the cell, and beat the living hell out of me. They beat me so bad I pissed blood for a while. The only reason they didn't kill me is because a deacon from the Catholic Church found out what they were doing and goes to the warden and says, if this doesn't stop, I'm going to go public. I'm going to start telling people about it. I mean, the last thing you want to do in there is draw more attention to yourself. Mm-hmm.
What's something in daily life that does kind of frustrate you a little bit? I mean, society is filled with ridiculous things. I'm sure even someone with your level of calm must find something somewhat irritating.
What do I find irritating? When I go to the movies and there's nothing on but like Twilight movies or something like that, that can get kind of irritating.
How come?
Because I'm not a 16-year-old girl.
Very true.
Yeah, things like that. I don't know. It's weird. I guess the things that irritate me are... It's not irritate me as much as it is, I guess, sometimes you can just get absolutely worn down, you know, things like we've been on the road for 2.5 months and, you know, you're just wanting to see your home again. You're wanting to relax again. You're wanting time when you're not talking about the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life. Things like that, you know, it wears you down, but it's not like it's, you know, on that same level, the irritating things.
And Twilight's not a satisfying escape from that?
No. No. I did go see the last one the other day. I had to go see it with Lori, and it was...
What'd you guys think?
I thought it was the best out of the series, I guess.
Oh, you've seen all 5?
I think I've seen like 3 of them, something like that. We went to one of them when we were in New Zealand. One day there was nothing else to do, so we go see it. And I swear to God, I looked around and I'm the only guy in the whole theater. And then the girls in there, when they would have to go to the bathroom, they would get up and run full speed because they were scared they were going to miss like 10 seconds of it. I'm like, what are you going to miss? They're going to be doing the same thing when you come back that they're doing now, looking angsty and, and talking.
So why was the last one the best?
Had a really long fight sequence. I guess.
There you go. What's your relationship with Jesse and Jason like right now?
Jesse doesn't really have a relationship with much of anyone. You know, he only had an IQ of 68 to begin with. Then you add all of this crap on top of it, and it pretty much screwed up any chance he will ever have it living a normal life again. He doesn't come out of his house. He doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't go anywhere. From what I've heard, he's scared to death they're going to find a way to put him back in prison.
Really?
Jason is in Seattle now. We went out there like the day after we got out. We went to Eddie Vedder's house, and Jason likes Seattle so much that he said, this is where I want to live at. So he's enrolled in college out there now, and he eventually wants to go to law school and get his law degree and maybe try to help people who are in the same situation that we were. We talk once a week or so.
When you look back, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
No, just because there have been a lot of blessings. You know, as horrible and horrifying as this situation has been, as painful as it has been, there's also been a lot of really great things come out of it, like my relationship with Lori, or some of the friends we've developed.